There are red flags people talk about loudly. The obvious ones. The ones that come with warnings and certainty. But this story is not about those. This is about the red flags that feel like confusion. Like doubt. Like something you can't quite name, but can't ignore either. The ones that don't arrive suddenly. They grow slowly. Almost kindly. It started gently. Two people meeting at a time when both were tired of being alone. Not desperate. Just open. The first conversations felt easy. There was laughter, curiosity, attention. Nothing felt rushed. Nothing felt forced. And that's why it felt safe. In the beginning, red flags rarely appear as danger. They appear as charm. As intensity. As interest. And most people don't know yet what to look for. At some point, something small happened. A comment that landed strangely. A joke that didn't feel like a joke. A moment where one person felt the need to explain themselves, just a little more than usual. They noticed it, but didn't linger on it. After all, no one communicates perfectly. Everyone has moods. Everyone has flaws. So the moment passed. But the body remembered. Red flags often register physically first. A slight tightness in the chest. A pause before responding. A sense of walking carefully without knowing why. Over time, the adjustments began. One person learned which topics felt safe. Which emotions were welcomed. Which reactions caused distance. They didn't think of it as shrinking. They thought of it as being considerate. They spoke more gently. They softened concerns. They delayed difficult conversations. They told themselves it was maturity. But there is a difference between maturity and self-erasure. And that difference is subtle. Sometimes warmth came easily. Affection flowed. Connection felt real. Other times, the emotional temperature dropped without explanation. No argument. No clear reason. Just withdrawal. And the person left behind began searching for patterns. Trying to understand what they did wrong. Trying to prevent it from happening again. This is one of the quietest red flags. When connection feels conditional. And you're always guessing the rules. Eventually, apologies became familiar. One person apologized often. For tone. For timing. For being too much or too sensitive. The other accepted apologies easily. But rarely offered their own. They explained. They justified. They minimized. And the balance slowly shifted. Healthy relationships repair in both directions. Red flags appear when repair becomes one-sided. Conversations changed. They became practical. Functional. Efficient. Schedules. Plans. Logistics. There was nothing wrong with the words being spoken. But something important was missing. Emotional curiosity faded. Vulnerability felt risky. Silence filled the spaces where connection used to live. Not dramatic silence. Just quiet. The kind that feels heavy instead of peaceful. Loneliness outside a relationship hurts. But loneliness inside one confuses. You sit next to someone who knows your life. Yet you feel unseen. You talk, but don't feel heard. You share, but don't feel held. This loneliness doesn't mean love is gone. But it does mean something essential is missing. At some point, the person began questioning themselves. Am I asking for too much? Am I overthinking this? Why can't I just be grateful? They searched online. They compared their relationship to others. They reminded themselves of the good moments. And there were good moments. That's what made it harder. Red flags don't erase good experiences. They coexist with them. Instead of responding to what was happening now, they began living in potential. Who their partner could be. How things might improve. What it would look like if communication finally clicked. Hope became a coping strategy. Hope is powerful. But hope without safety becomes exhausting. The body started reacting. Tension before conversations. Relief when alone. A sense of emotional fatigue after being together. Nothing extreme. Nothing dramatic. Just a quiet depletion. The nervous system had learned something the mind was still debating. Red flags live here first. When concerns were raised, they didn't land. They were misunderstood. Redirected. Turned into debates about intention rather than impact. I didn't mean it that way. You're taking it too personally. That's not what happened. Over time, speaking up felt pointless. And silence became easier. No one in the story was cruel. No one was malicious. That's what made it complicated. The harm was subtle. Unintentional. But cumulative. And cumulative harm still harms. Red flags don't require bad people. They require misalignment and unaddressed patterns. Eventually, honesty felt risky. Not dangerous. Just costly. It cost peace. It cost energy. It cost emotional labor. So honesty was filtered. Delayed. Sometimes abandoned. When truth feels unsafe, connection cannot deepen. There wasn't a breaking moment. Just a pause. A quiet realization. I don't feel like myself anymore. That sentence arrived gently, but carried weight. It wasn't about blame. It wasn't about leaving. It was about listening inward. Red flags are not verdicts. They are signals. They don't demand immediate decisions. They invite awareness. They ask, is this relationship expanding me or shrinking me? Do I feel safe to be fully present? Can repair happen here? Ignoring these questions doesn't make them disappear. It's possible to understand someone deeply and still acknowledge they cannot meet you emotionally. Compassion does not require self-sacrifice. Empathy does not require endurance. This realization is quiet and freeing. The story doesn't end with a dramatic exit or a perfect resolution. It ends with awareness. With someone sitting quietly, breathing, listening to themselves again. Red flags did not mean failure. They meant information, and information, when honored, becomes clarity. If this story feels familiar, be gentle. Noticing red flags doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It means you are paying attention. And paying attention is an act of self-respect. Sometimes the most important relationship is the one you rebuild with yourself, while learning what safety truly feels like.